Calling the meeting to order and a roll call. So do we have Director Louis Lusso,
Here.
Director Castellano,
Here.
Director Katie,
Here.
Director Madrone is not here, and Director Wilson?
Here.
All right, thank you. We have a quorum. Next on the agenda is our consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered routine by the HWMA board and will be enacted upon by one motion unless a specific request for review is made by a board member or a member of the public. The consent calendar will not be read. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless pulled for discussion. We have A, approved minutes from the February 12th, 2026 HWMA Board of Directors meeting. B, review and approve draft December 2025 financial reports. And C, approve requests for bids for the purchase of gas extraction system flare heat shields. Do we have any member of the board that would like to pull an item for discussion? Okay. And is there any discussion? Anyone like to discuss anything, or should we go for public comment?
Sure.
Okay. Any members of the public wanting to comment on the consent calendar can come forward at this time or raise your hand if you're on Zoom.
Seeing none, Chair.
Okay. Anybody like to make a motion for the consent calendar?
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent calendar.
I will second.
Great. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Anyone opposed? Okay. Motion passes unanimously. And that brings us to oral and written communications. This time is provided for people to address the board or to submit written communications concerning matters not on the agenda. Board members may respond to statements, but any request that requires board action will be referred to staff for review. Reasonable time limits may be imposed on both the total amount of time allocated for this item and on the time permitted to each individual speaker. Such time allotment or portion thereof shall not be transferred to other speakers. So we'll go ahead and start with anyone that's in person and would like to have public comment on things that are not on the agenda. So now would be the time for that. Okay. How about, is there anyone online?
Seeing none, Chair.
Okay, then we will move on to item 4. So item 4 is to receive and approve the base compensation study report. We'll turn this over to our director for introduction.
Thank you, Chair. So as noted in the staff report during the 2025-26 budget process, this board directed staff to budget for and initiate a compensation study prior to our fiscal year 2026-2027 budget. Staff secured the assistance of Gallagher Benefit Services to conduct this study and provide an independent and objective review of our current compensation levels. Additionally, we have a representative here tonight from Gallagher that will provide a presentation and answer questions should you have them. And with that, I will turn it over.
Thank you, and good afternoon, members of the board. I appreciate the opportunity to present to you the results of our compensation study for Humboldt Waste Management Authority. I will need the ability to share my screen. I don't know if I have the authorization to do that or not.
You should have it, Mike.
I should. All right, let's see what happens here. All righty. Eric, can you see? Is that
Yes, sir.
my screen? Screen's up.
Yep, you're good to go.
Great, thank you. As Eric mentioned, we did enter into an agreement with the authority or HWMA to conduct a compensation base salary study back in August of 25. Part of that study was to include 11 other agencies and 15 different benchmark classifications used in the survey. And I'll go over that in just a second. We started in August and we provided preliminary data to management leadership in October. And we followed up with making recommendations around salary ranges to staff in November. So for this meeting, we wanted to, hopefully this isn't new for any of the board members, but this is the 11 agencies that we did utilize in our compensation study. You can see we have a handful of cities and counties, and then a sand district and a couple of waste authorities. For tonight's discussion, we, as your consultant, wanted to go over what we call compensation philosophy. Okay, so the compensation philosophy is generally established by the board or the elected body, and that is how does the board or the elected body wish to pay their employees relative to the labor market. Okay, as you can see under item 2, most public agencies in California target what we call the survey median, the median being the middle value of that particular set of salary data, okay, as opposed to the mean, which is the average. And the reason why we go with median over mean, and I would say 95% plus of public employers in California do this. The reason we go with median is because the median is always the middle value in a set of data, is kind of neutralized as opposed to the average, which can be a lot more, well, could be more volatile based upon whether you have a very high paying agency or a very low paying agency. So the average can drag things up or down. Median is always right in the middle. And so that's the standard metric. Um, and for the discussion this evening, we also wanted to let the board know that other agencies compensate their employees as a percent either above or below the median. And a lot of that has to do with ability to pay and the interest in recruitment, retention, and all those kinds of good things, as to how the authority is going to be paying their employees. So, but it's really a board decision. We did provide the leadership team, Eric and Hillary, with market data, which compares your salaries to the market average and the market median. Okay. And for those agencies that were outside of the Eureka geographic area, we actually adjusted that data by what's called a cost of labor geographic differential. And essentially, what that's saying is we are reporting, I think LA Sand was one of them, right? So we are reporting LA Sand's salaries in Eureka dollars. Okay. So here's kind of a big picture overview. What did we find? Well, we found your base salaries overall are 7.3% below the median. So there are some positions that are above, right? Some that are below, but we average all those out and you're about 7.3 below. Now, there are positions as high as 9.8% above the median, okay? And as low as 26 and a quarter below the median. So that's your kind of your gap or your spectrum of above and below. And overall, the 7.3 is where the district stands overall. Okay, now we have actually some of the data here we wanted to provide to the board. And really there's not a ton of data here. There's just, these are the classifications that we studied as part of the survey. That's alphabetical right down your left-hand column there. The number of job matches we made, meaning if we surveyed 12 agencies, we needed to have at least 4 job matches in order for us to present that data as statistically significant. So as you can see here, one of these positions is your health and safety coordinator. We only got 3 job matches, so we're not reporting that data because we need 4 or more. But in many cases, we got quite a bit more. And so that's your second column. And the third column is if it's a positive value, that means your position's salary, the top salary for your classification, is above the median. And if it's a negative value, and all but one are negative values. If it's a negative value, that means that position's top salary is below the market median. Okay, so again, these are alphabetical order. You can see when we average that third column up, that's where we came up with that, overall you are an average of 7.3% below the median. Okay, that's just the median. There's a reason we don't survey every single position in the authority. We survey what we call benchmark positions, and I'll give you an example. Let's say landfill technician 2. We generally survey one position in a job family, and so in the case of a landfill tech 2, we consider that position the journey level position in that field of work. And other agencies that do have a landfill tech as well, we would compare your landfill tech to their journey level landfill tech 2. When we make salary recommendations, we would make recommendations for the tech 2 based on the market. And then there's arguably there will be a tech 1 that's paid at a certain percentage below the 2. And there may or may not be a lead or a senior landfill tech that would be paid above the 2. So the 2 is the benchmark or the anchor. But if there are other classifications in that job family, and I know there's at least one, we would not survey them separately. That would create chaos. We would basically tie their salaries to one of the positions that we did include in the survey. So hopefully that makes sense. This is just page 2 of the same data. And I believe at this point, I'll take any questions at all. Anyone have any questions, concerns, comments, whatever, I'm here. The staff decided they were going to basically seek some direction from the board as to how the board might want to use the results of this compensation study.
Okay, is there any discussion, questions or any discussion on this? Thoughts? Yes.
Yeah, I have a few questions to start, and then maybe I'll hand it over to Director Wilson, and might have some more after that too.
Director Castellano, our chair, would you like me to touch on the fiscal impacts, or do you want to pose your questions to Mike right now, and then I can touch on the fiscal impacts after?
Sure, great. Yeah, yep. Let's see. The first question I have.
Excuse me, just a second. Could I? Sorry to interrupt. I've been able to join the meeting. I am remote, and I need to say that I am joining for cause. I'm on work, and I'm out of town. So I think that's mainly what I have to say. And there's nobody in the room under 18 or over 18. So sorry to interrupt, Leslie.
Thank you, Director Madrone. Glad to have you here.
I think we need to make a motion for Director Madrone to participate. Oh, okay. No.
No?
It's not required.
Oh.
But if you do that as a matter of practice, you certainly
Okay. At the city we did.
If it's not required,
No, it's okay.
we're happy to let him in.
Great. Thanks. Okay. Let's see. I was curious in terms of the survey. I know that in terms of the, just comparing the size of the organization surveyed, their budget and number of staff, and the kind of the cost of their services, is there any comparison related to that in the survey, or that you could speak to that didn't make it into our report?
Yes, as a matter of fact, there are basically management positions, and let's say you're a smaller agency, and we're looking at a management position or department head position at your agency, and then we look at LA County Sanitation, for example, which is much, much, much larger. We wouldn't necessarily make a one-to-one match, meaning the director to LA County San may have $1 billion budget, and your director has millions. We wouldn't make that one-to-one match. We would probably look at a position under the director of LA San to kind of do what we call job leveling. Because to your point, yes, there are agencies that are well bigger with way more responsibility and more budget, more staff, and all of the above. But for the most part, when it comes to your operating positions, okay, your landfill folks, your hazmat folks, um, we do not need to level those out. We consider those positions, those kind of ops positions, uh, if you guys have an ops position and another agency has an ops position that is at least 70% or more similar to yours, we would report that. And the reason is we don't really look at quantity, nor could we find, how many trash receptacles or whatever an individual, landfill person or refuse operator might pick up, right? So we don't look at quantity when it comes to ops positions or technical positions, but we do look at other factors, as you had mentioned before, like management and up, just so that we're taking into consideration the fact that other agencies are much, much larger.
Thank you. And then the other question I have is, often in labor comparison studies, there will be some, I understand that it seems like you only surveyed waste management organizations, but do you ever enact comparative studies that would include some local comparisons?
We did. We actually did. We had several cities on there, and
I guess
counties
in
as
Humboldt
well.
County specific.
Let me see real quick.
So you would
we
have to
had,
go out of agency, or a different kind of agency.
So we had Reading, the cities of Reading, Santa Cruz, Santa Maria, Watsonville. We had Sacramento, San Joaquin County, Stanislaus County, Yolo, and then
Yeah,
we had LA San, Monterey Regional Waste, and Salinas. So,
yeah. I,
yeah, there was a good mix of stuff. I mean, some of these cities may not have, they may contract out for the kind of services that you folks provide,
yeah,
but there are other positions in that agency, it's IT or HR or finance or, those types of positions that we would match.
sure. No, I did read the study, so I was aware of the different cities that you surveyed. So I was more asking if you ever do surveys that would include like an organization in Humboldt County that may perform a slightly different service but may have similar types of jobs.
Well, we would do an analysis, okay, and we would analyze other agencies in terms of how similar, quote, those agencies are compared to your agency. But what I mean by that is, what's the size of their budget? How many employees do they have? What types of services do they operate? What's the cost of living? What's the population or customers served? We would look at all those factors and make recommendations, like rank all of those factors, basically demographic kind of factors, rank them all, and come up with a ranked listing and give to the client.
Uh-huh.
Based
So
on those it's just demographics. It has nothing to do with like who pays more or less. We don't look at salaries or benefits or
yeah.
anything like that. It's
So
just it's an objective third party analysis. We call it a comparator analysis.
yeah.
And
So
in this case, I don't know that we did one. I believe Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, but did the district or did your agency provide us with that list?
No, we did not. You originally provided a larger list, and then we pared it down
Oh,
to
so
ensure that we had comparative for
thank you.
the classifications.
My
so
bad. Sorry. Yeah. So we did start with a list probably of 20 plus other agencies, and those ones that we selected that we recommended to your agency was selected.
okay. So it would be possible to compare Humboldt County agencies as part of this study, even though their job duties may be slightly different.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. If they're not operating the same kind of utility that you folks operate, we could get job matches for certain jobs or careers, but not necessarily all of the
Sure,
types of
sure.
positions
Okay,
that we do.
great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there other questions, Director Wilson? Did you have a question or?
What I was going to ask, I don't think is really. Can you turn your microphone on, please? The way that they're doing.
Oh, your mic's not on.
Really going to make a difference.
Your mic's not on.
I don't think that, as broad as this is laid out, compared to Humboldt County, I don't think they're I really don't see apples for apples in what we're doing here,
Okay.
to be quite honest with you. So,
I think maybe that's what Director Castellano was also getting at. If
that's
I'm,
what you were getting at.
yeah.
We were wanting, and that's what I was wanting to hear. And from what she asked and what he answered, pretty well answered what I was going to ask.
Yeah, that's what I was picking up, because although some of these, like executive director is kind of a more obvious one, because we have agencies and different with executive directors in Humboldt that do obviously different work, but do manage similar types of groups of people. So I think that's what we're Director Castellano and you are both alluding to, is maybe a comparison of types of jobs in our area that are similar to these, to compare to see how these wages are holding up locally. Okay. Are there other questions? And then we can, I know Eric wants to get into some of the financial aspects of this. Should we go ahead and go to that? All right.
Thank you, Chair. So just quickly to touch on the fiscal impact of the proposed recommendations. It would result in an increase of just under 13% to our overall salary costs when compared to our current expenses. This translates to an increase of about $300,000 annually. With the impact to the tipping fee, using our current tonnage projections, that would be around $4.25 additionally onto the tipping fee. I did want to make note as well. One area of note in the compensation study is the account clerk 2 classification and its confidential designation. Both these positions, you'll note, occupy the same salary range in the recommendation and operationally have significant overlap in their day-to-day duties. So with that, staff would also recommend consideration of consolidating these two positions into a singular classification and bringing an updated job description to the board at the April meeting. If you have any other questions about the financial impact or anything else, I'd be more than happy to answer as well.
Are there any other questions, or should I go ahead and open it for? Oh yeah, go ahead, Director Castellano.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you. And thanks for bringing this forward. We definitely want to make sure that everyone feels like they're being supported for their jobs and appreciated. I was curious, we recently had an increase in tipping fees, and I believe last year or within the last year or two, a 7% increase, I think, in staff salaries. Can you tell a little bit more about our recent increase in salaries, and then also what the increase in tipping fees has been?
So for this fiscal year, our cost of living was 2.8% increase. The prior year, it was 4.1%. For 2024-25, 2023-24 was 6.5%. And then 2022-23 was 5%.
Okay. Great. And then in terms of tipping fees, can you tell me about, I guess, what's the average kind of cost to consumer? And then remind me of recent increases in tipping fees.
So I can't speak directly to the cost to consumer, because obviously our fee is a base layer fee that's put into your guys' collection contracts. Right. What I can speak to is some of the increases in the last couple of years.
Thank you.
Depending on the fee that you're looking at, residential is charged differently than your guys' franchise jurisdiction rate. But you're looking from anywhere. Last year it was around $20 to $25 addition onto the tip fee. The year prior to that it was $10 to $15, and the year prior to that I believe it was $7 and change. I would also remind the board that prior to that, for 9 consecutive years, it remained the exact same. So that's a little bit of the history of why some of those changes and those increases have happened.
Thank you. And we do have a regular cost of living adjustment. Typically.
Yes. Yeah. That was. Yeah.
Great. Thankful for that. And then just curious how recruitment and retention has been going in general.
So retention has been moderate. I think the majority of your director staff are 5 years or less here. Each one of those positions over the last 5 years has had at least 3 individuals sitting in them. I would say that the biggest retention area would be the material diversion technician. But as of note, in 2019, when we did the salary survey, that was one of the items of note of having a retention issue. And it was also one of the only positions that has 3 salary ranges and 3 bands compared to any other classification that we have. Our office staff, outside of one individual who has been there for a tremendous amount of time, over 20 years, our entire financial staff is less than 2 years old. But the majority of Scalehouse and operations staff is somewhere in the 7 to 20 plus range.
Right. And many people on the executive team have kind of moved up, which I think is amazing and good for, have moved up through the organization. And so maybe newer to their positions, but have been in the organization for a long time.
2 of them, correct, yeah.
That's great. I think those are all my questions. Thank you.
Yes, go ahead, Director Wilson.
We're not doing a regular cost of living increase, are we?
That would be up to the board during our annual budget. Obviously, if the board wishes, we can forego that as well. But if Gallagher would like to speak to it, they also recommended that not only do we do an increase in salary to make sure that we are at the median, but we implement a potential cost of living so that way the rates that we immediately implement don't fall based off CPI. But again, that would be up to the board.
Or so do we put that off until we actually do our budget?
Correct.
On doing it.
Yeah, that would come before you next month at our April meeting when we present our draft budget.
Okay. That's good enough. Thank you.
But just to clarify, but I think the cost of living would automatically come before, but we also have to decide today if we want something different so that it can be plugged into the budget for April, correct?
Yeah, that is correct. So staff's recommendation tonight would be that the board receive and approve the base compensation salary study survey and then direct staff to implement Gallagher's recommendations into our draft fiscal year budget that's upcoming.
Okay. And I mean, there's, as acknowledged, quite a spread in different discrepancies. And so is the, expectation, desire just to go with the recommendations across the board, or has there been any discussion about other ways that we might go about it?
For right now, staff's recommendation would be to take Gallagher's recommendation. They've been doing this for a very long time. Previously, there were Coffin Associates who also assisted us in 2019, 2020 for that salary survey as well. So they're familiar with the authority and our operations and our classification plans. And a lot of work from Gallagher and a little bit from staff went into this. So I would recommend the recommendations as presented by Gallagher.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions before we go to public comment? Sure.
What was Gallagher's again, to refresh their recommendation for staffs?
So the Director Wilson, the ranges change based on the classification. So while the overall median for all authority employees was 7.33% below the median average, we are not recommending just a flat 7.33%. We are recommending, I believe it's in Appendix 4, they have a list of each classification that the authority has, the current maximum salary, the percent from the monthly median, and then the market placement or their recommendation. So some of the percentage range from 5% all the way to 21.5%. So it's very specific recommendations based on the classifications and then the market placement data that they got.
So it's based on, it's not a medium, it's in an individual
Correct.
classification by this appendix here.
Correct. Each classification that you see there is placed based off the median data received for each individual classification from the entities that they surveyed. So each one of those is in the middle of the survey range for its own singular classification.
Excuse me. Go ahead.
So for, like, I'll take an example for Hazardous Waste Tech 2. Hazardous Waste Tech 2, we have a current maximum salary baseline. Gallagher took that position, went to 15 to 12 different comparative agencies, found a Hazardous Waste Tech 2 to compare it to, took their current maximum base salary and placed our recommendation at the median level of all of those 12 agencies, if that makes sense.
Yes. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, let's go ahead and go to public comment. Do we have anyone here that would like to comment on this? And also, like, just to acknowledge, not a fun topic to discuss, especially with any, no matter what. So just, acknowledging that it can be it's hard to talk about people's wages and costs. And so, but we would love to hear your thoughts if there's anyone here or online that would like to weigh in on this.
Seeing none online, Chair.
All right, so that brings it back to the board. We're looking for two actions. One, to approve the draft-based compensation study report, and then other would be direction to staff. Oh, yes, Director Madrone, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I just will say that while I recognize it is often a difficult conversation, I actually enjoy the work of trying to make sure that our staff are compensated fairly given the marketplace and the averages and the medians and all that stuff. And I appreciate the study. For me, I think getting everybody to that median place, each individual position as recommended by staff, actually saves us money. It saves us money in failed recruitment, lack of retention, low morale, and other things. So I just wanted to state that in general, I'm very supportive of the staff recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Madrone.
Yeah, thank you for this. I do feel that we need local comparisons because really we're talking about local workforce. And I think as many of us know here, we all also represent other agencies in the community. And so, we have to, really consider kind of how the workforce is impacted locally. And so I would actually like to send this study back and have the addition of local comparable jobs to really look at. I would feel a lot more comfortable making a decision if I could look at that. I'm aware of the city of Eureka's, and so I know that some of these, like leadership positions would then be higher than many at the city of Eureka and or approaching and so I think it would just be important for me in terms of making this decision to have a more local comparison. And so, I would happy to make a motion related to that. I do feel comfortable, with cost of living adjustments. That seems fair and equitable regardless. I understand that I go to the grocery store, I'm like, wow, prices are going up. So I want to really acknowledge that for staff as well, because I know we're all feeling it. But, I think I'd be happy to, after seeing something local, bring this back later in the year. We can always make a budget adjustment if need be.
How does that resonate with other members of the board? Thoughts on that? Is that a direction we'd like to go, or does someone have a different suggestion?
I have a question.
Yes, please. Thank you.
How long would another study with the local agencies or area positions take, do you think? Either Mike or
This one was initiated in August, and you're receiving it in March. I would assume the local agencies would be less time consuming, but that's again an assumption. And Mike, you can jump in and correct me if I'm incorrect on that.
Yeah, if we were to go back and add other agencies, which we're glad to do, it would require us amending our scope of work with the authority. So that would be, there is a contract update or amendment, if you will. We'd have to get that in place. And then, if you know exactly which agencies you want us to include, that's will streamline things a little bit. If you're asking us to kind of do an analysis of other potential agencies that are closer to home, we could do that for you as well. And what Eric's referring to, I think the last time we did the comp study, we did just that. We analyzed a bunch of agencies and came up with that listing. But if the board so chooses, yes, we'll be happy to do it. The only time constraint is whether we can get it back before July 1. And the reason is that most public agencies, if not all, will have some kind of a salary kicker on July 1, whether it's COLA or other kinds of adjustments. So we want the data to be fresh when it gets to you. If we can get it to you before, if you want us to do it and we can get it to you before July 1, then that data will still be good. If for whatever reason it takes a longer time to agree to those other potential agencies, it takes a longer time for us to get that scope of work put together and all that kind of stuff too. And if we find ourselves looking at like July, we're in July, God forbid, we're in July, then all of the data that you have in front of you will basically become stale. The salary, we'd have to update the salaries as well. So it's just pros and cons,
Thank you.
Any other, is there any other one with a desire to see this move forward? Maybe Director Madrone, do you have an opinion on that?
Well, I will say that, I appreciate Leslie's comments. I mean, it is important to have things within context, right? But the trick is we're in March. I guess we would need to know the timeline from Director Kelman, how long it might take to modify the scope of work. And I'm assuming a few board members might be able to help provide a list to narrow it down on who we're looking locally to try and compare to, and get that all into an amended contract, which take probably several weeks, I'm assuming, maybe quicker. And then they would have to go get the data and then line up, analyzing that, bringing that back to us, say in April or May. So it's going to get to be a tight timeline. So, but I appreciate the comment. I think it's valid. I guess, Director Kelman, do you think that we can do these things in a timeline that gets us this information back by May? Because if we're up against June or July, then we've wasted a lot of money on a study that, as was mentioned by our consultant, becomes stale. So how do we not let it get stale, get the information we want? Can we pull that off?
That timeline would be tough for me to comment on. I think if we had a bit of an idea on what agencies have comparative job descriptions to the authority locally, I think that would be beneficial because to be frank, there's a lot of job descriptions on there that do not reside within your jurisdictions. But I think I would be more than happy to work with Mike to alter the scope of work. I would also be concerned about the fact that if we do have some jobs compared to local agencies, we're going to get insufficient data for some of these other jobs. Landfill technician, material diversion tech, household hazardous waste technician. Those are going to be insufficient data for any jurisdiction or JPA entity in Humboldt County. But with that said, I would be more than happy. I can't guarantee that it would be back by May, but we would do our best if that's what the board chooses.
And to the students. And the other option would be to, do something like a cost of living adjustment, and then to basically begin such a study in July, when all the data is fresh again. And so we could then do the comparison without the time crunch, I would imagine.
If I may, collecting the data for July, at least as it relates to the agencies that we did survey this time, it would be relatively painless because we've already made the job matching. Okay, the timeliness would come with respect to adding, one or more local agencies, and we would want to know whether you want to add those to the existing data that we've already collected, or provide those as its own set of data. But the timing is that because now we would have to go out and make job matches from your positions to those positions at these new agencies, and that's what takes time. We have to collect organization charts and budgets and job descriptions and MOUs and all that kind of good stuff. So we could do it in July. I mean, we could do it in July with fresh data, but it was still require an amendment to our scope of work.
Sure.
But we're happy to do it either way.
I mean, I think what I'm struggling with, which I would assume is probably other board members, is, this, we are speaking on behalf of all of the customers who pay for garbage. And so we are, it would be, it's okay. It would be, Supervisor Madrone, can you turn on your video? That's part of the, being away that has to happen. Thank you. Sure, it's okay. No, it's okay. I was just explaining that, it's not, since it's not, we're trying to justify rates with other people's money that they're going to be increasing. And I think that it gets difficult when people see a number, and I don't even know whose position this is. I'm just pulling up on here, it's 26% below median. Well, that's not okay that someone is 26% below the median, but also the headline becomes, we have just given a 26% raise and people are struggling to pay their garbage bill. That's what I'm personally wrestling with. I don't know how others feel about that. But we do need to decide, as hard as it is, if we want to do another study or if we want to just go ahead and give direction in some way, shape, or form on this.
I've one more question for Mike, I believe your name was. And that is, if we were to do another study that include, maybe a supplementary study, keeping this one that included local agencies, how many would be recommended? 3, 4?
No, I mean, we surveyed Eric, 10 or 11 as it is. The standard for our clients is between 10 and 12 agencies. We feel, as part of our methodology, that public agencies do not need to survey more than 12 agencies. Sometimes they do, but we feel that between 10 and 12 is the sweet spot where we should be able to find sufficient data from the other agencies. And I think we did that this time, except for maybe 1 or 2 benchmarks. But I mean, if you wanted to add 10, we're happy to do it. But I'm just saying the standard practice and our standard methodology is between 10 and 12 survey agencies. That's it.
And we couldn't just add 4 more or something. If we added 4 local agencies to be part of the comparison, would that be possible?
You could add 4 more, and it's your call. It's the board's call as to which 4 of those might be. it's not going to hurt anything. We're just saying that practically speaking, most of our clients are very comfortable with 10 to 12. But we have, we have the ability, the capacity to include another 3 or 4. It'll take some more time and a scope of work, but that's,
Sure.
that's doable.
And so, for instance, let's say, like, if let's say tonight, I'm basically kind of trying to measure out like whether we try to like push this, and get some additional agencies compared pre-July, or whether we kind of hold it and then do a cost of living adjustment and then kind of do like a more robust study that includes local agencies starting in July. And so I guess, to me, I would say I'd look at like Humboldt Transit Authority, Recology, Humboldt County, just because there's so many employees in the city of Eureka or something like that. And so I'm just curious if that would give you, if you were to add 4 agencies like that to the existing study, like, would you be able to complete that and we were able to figure out a contract, complete it by July 1st?
From our perspective,
Do
that would be
remember
pretty
that
aggressive.
Recology
Go
is
ahead,
not a
Eric,
public
sorry.
agency.
Yeah, so 2 things, Director Castellano. Recology is a private entity, not a jurisdictional or an entity as far as this would go. But the other thing is we would need it well before July 1. So July 1 would be when your rates go live. Generally, our rates go live in May. That way, your jurisdictions have time to budget and build your budget and go live by July 1. So I'll let Mike talk to if the timeline more.
Yeah, I am not comfortable or confident in saying we could easily add 4 new agencies and get everything to the board by June. I don't know that that's doable, and I don't want to overcommit. If the board decided to do some other version, i.e., look at the cost of living, refresh all the data after July, and add new agencies after July, it's a new scope of work, like I said, but we've already made the job matches for those 11 agencies. We would just need to update salary and benefits for those, and then if we added 2 or 3 or 4 more agencies, we would have to dive into those for the first time, because we haven't matched jobs with those agencies to your agency just yet.
Great. Thank you. In terms of so many questions, in terms of approving the compensation study report, that's basically us saying that we agree that your findings have been through thorough practice. Yeah. Okay. Then I make a motion to approve the draft-based compensation study report, and I would like to bring back for discussion with the budget a cost of living adjustment, and then to consider launching a study that includes local sources later this year or later this calendar year.
So that would be, you're thinking of not trying to rush it. So you're thinking of after the budget comes out. Okay. Is that clear to everyone, the motion?
Sorry?
Or is everyone clear on her motion?
Did I make a motion?
No, I'm just asking if everyone is understanding Director Castellano's motion, and if so, questions or a second. Okay.
I'll say it again.
Sure.
I talk fast. It's fine. Okay. The first part is just to approve the draft. We could break it into 2 parts too. I'll just make the first motion as one motion. I move to approve the draft-based compensation study report.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second on the approval of the draft-based compensation study report. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Second part of the motion.
Okay.
Yes.
Excuse me, you have to do a voice vote. I mean, a roll
Roll call?
vote now. Yeah, because you have one.
Oh,
of your
because we have Director
members
Madrone on.
yeah.
All right. So Director Madrone, we'll start with you.
Aye.
Thank you. Director Wilson?
Aye.
Director Katie?
Aye.
I am I. Director Lusso?
Aye.
And Director Castellano? Right, it passes unanimously. Right, the second part.
Okay. And, this says board direction. Would you, is it, maybe this is a question for legal counsel, would it be better to make a motion or just to provide consensus?
I think a motion would be more precise. And I think
Great.
that would be appreciated, yeah.
Okay. Then I move to bring back a cost of living adjustment as part of the our budget discussion in the coming month, and to create a new base compensation study report in the coming calendar year, after the beginning of our next fiscal year. That includes local, at least 4 to 5 local sources.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, so again, we will do a roll call vote. We have a motion and a second. We'll start Director Madrone.
Well, first of all, Madam Chair, could we have a little more discussion on that motion, please?
Absolutely.
Great, thank you. I guess I see a couple of different options here, and Director Castellanos put forward one, which is to do a cost of living right now and to come back with an additional study after July, looking at, I think it was 5 local agencies, potentially up to 5, in terms of the comparison study. As was mentioned by Director Kellerman, there's only going to be a small number of positions within HWMA's world of positions where we can find local comparisons. The vast majority of them, we will not find comparisons, like landfill operator, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of positions that we're just simply not going to find those comparisons. So what do we do then? That recommendation doesn't really deal with that. I totally feel the burden of increased rates for all of the customers. I mean, everybody's hurting all the way across the board. But at the same time, if we don't maintain reasonable wages for our employees, as I've mentioned before, I believe the cost still will occur through failed recruitment, loss of retention, low morale, and other things if people feel like they are working below, some median or standard based on the results of this study. And I recognize that it doesn't really include locals, so it's complicated. They're really tricky stuff. But I guess a third option would be that not only the cost of living increase, but that in the budget, we consider doing, what was the median of all these positions? Was it 7.5%, Director Kellerman?
Yeah, 7.33%.
Yeah, so if we were to also ask for staff to bring back a budget recommendation for our review and consideration, a 7.33, that might make some of the positions get very close to the median within that position. And the other ones that are up at 25% difference, it only changes it by 7. It certainly doesn't get that close to that 25. But the 7 is still going to increase rates, but far less than if we were to do all of the adjustments that are in the compensation study. So I would just offer that as another option, perhaps, for the board to consider, that do the cost of living increase in the budget recommendation, but also do the 7.33 or whatever that number was, Director Kellerman, now, and then still do the study that's being recommended by Director Castellano and come back and use that to do any other further adjustments that might need to be made for those positions that are currently way out of whack with medians based on the information that's in front of us today. So I just offer that as another possible alternative. And lastly, I just wanted to ask, can you tell me how much money we have in this current contract with this consultant on this study that we're getting ready to wrap up? What's the value of that study?
I believe it's right around $18,000.
Okay, that's not the end of the world, but doing more and more studies affects rates too. So there's a lot of considerations there are no easy solutions in these wage discussions, as was mentioned earlier. So thank you for letting me offer those ideas.
Sure. And Director Madrone, that I have a question for you because that's something that I had thought about was just the 7.25 across the board. But then there are positions that are above median. So like when we have one position that's 9.78% above, so adding a 7 point.
So I would not apply it to those that are already above. The idea is trying to bring those that are below median based on the study up to something closer to the median. And, you know, the equity question could be thrown in here as well, just using that average. For some people, it would be significant. For others, not so. So, again, there's no easy solutions here. I was just trying to think if there was a second alternative. That's all.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So we have a motion, we have a second. We can go ahead and take a vote on that. Someone can also offer another motion that we can consider if there's another motion that wants to be put on the table. Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and take a vote on Director Castellano's original motion to do the cost of living increases at this budget session, and then doing an addition to the study in later on in the calendar year. So is that correctly summarize that? All right. We need to do it in roll call. So Director Madrone, I'll go back to you.
No.
Okay, thank you. Director Wilson?
Yes.
Okay, Director Katie?
Yes.
Okay, I will vote yes.
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 Okay, so it looks like that's where we go from here, and hopefully we can do this rather quickly so people can know where they stand. All right, thank you.
Did, before you close this
Yep.
item, did the board want to provide direction on the additional agencies, or do you want staff just to identify those additional agencies? And do you want to put any parameters on that?
I feel like there should be some direction so that we can make sure that that it's being, we don't want to go back for another study. So it would be a good idea.
Yeah, could staff bring that back to us, a list at next month's board meeting?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, and also it might be good for board members if anyone is already thinking of something. It would be, staff has already, they've made an effort, they've done their best to get this information to us, and now we're asking for more. So I feel like it would be kind of upon us to give suggestions.
Yeah, I just didn't want to not have an opportunity for staff to bring that back to you. So yeah, I'll definitely bring some.
Okay, so so reach out to Director Keller-Heckman with your ideas. Okay. Got papers everywhere up here.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. Okay.
All right, that takes us to item number 5, to receive a presentation on our mid-year budget adjustments. And that will be from both our Director, Eric Keller-Heckman, and Director of Finance, Hillary Schwartz.
Thank you, Chair. So staff is happy to say, as is normally the case with our mid-year, our budget has minimal requests for changes. Our revenues are tracking slightly above expected, and this can be attributed to an increase in self-haul tonnage received at the Hawthorne Street transfer station. Countywide fees, base fees, and other income categories across the board are also tracking as expected. And staff has a high level of confidence in the revenue projections that were made for the fiscal year 2025-2026 budget. On the expenditure side, they are also tracking well across the board, with no significant interruptions to travel routes for solid waste, helping out as well. Gas prices up to this point have remained within expected levels as well, and expenses overall have tracked as predicted, if not slightly below previously expected levels. With that, staff has minimal proposed adjustments, and I'll give you a brief overview on the 5 recommended adjustments. The $30,000 increase in the landfill's leachate hauling cost is directly correlated to the rainfall when compared to historical levels, and an increase in municipal discharge fees that was not known at the time of our budget adoption, as this line item was finalized in 2025. The landfill site requires extensive vegetation management activities, and the current lawnmower suffered a catastrophic breakdown requiring significant repairs. Instead of continuing to repair and maintain an older, undersized unit for the current task requirements, the purchase of a new mower is recommended, and a requested increase of $12,000 to the landfill equipment repairs and maintenance line item. The $6,000 increase to janitorial costs are related to improved service procurement and supply procurement at the Hawthorne Street transfer station. The $16,000 increase to environmental health and safety is more of an internal alignment issue than an issue with the original budgeting as adopted. Based on discussions with our auditors during our most recent financial audit, staff has realigned the expenses related to stormwater activities in the appropriate line item going forward. Additionally, we are seeing a slight increase on average in recycling tons received, resulting in a higher recycling disposal cost as well. Without a current tire amnesty grant, we have simultaneously experienced a sharp decline in tire disposal as well. Overall, staff believes that the minimal amount of proposed adjustments indicates strong assumptions and predictions made during this year's budgeting process. With that, staff recommends the board approve the list of proposed adjustments as presented and the 2025-2026 mid-year adjustments.
Right. Thank you. And Director Schwartz, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
No, I think that is a comprehensive mid-year adjustment review.
Okay, thank you. All right, any questions?
I have no questions.
And Steve, we see you eating Haagen-Dazs, and that's not fair. I just want to be real clear.
I want to be real clear. It sucks being on camera.
Yes, it does.
But you're right. It isn't fair. In regards to fairness, I wanted to apologize to Director Eric Keller Heckman for abbreviating his last name to Kellerman. Sorry, Eric.
Appreciate it, Director Madrone.
All right.
No insult meant there. So
Sorry.
thank you.
We just had to give you a hard time. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Sorry, not sorry. All right. Seems like we are in good shape, and they are minor adjustments, so I don't see or hear any questions on this. Let's go ahead and open it to public comment.
Seeing none online, Chair.
Okay, so we'll go ahead. Would anybody like to make a motion on this?
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion that the board approve the list of proposed adjustments as presented and approve the fiscal year 25-26 mid-year budget.
I second the motion.
Okay, let's go ahead for any questions? No? All right, let's go ahead for a roll call vote. Director Madrone?
Yes.
All right, Director Wilson?
Yes.
Thank you. Director Katie?
Yes.
All right, and Director Lewis Lusso?
Yes.
And Director Castellano?
Yes.
Oh, and I will vote yes also. Thank you. All right. Number 6. So this is on organics processing. It's we discussed this last week about the feasibility, a request for proposals, and so I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over to our executive director.
Thank you, Chair. So at the request of this board, this item was brought back this evening from discussion had at the February meeting. As a reminder, the HWMA was tasked with developing the organics processing feasibility study to determine appropriate levels of in-county organics processing capacity. The RFP was released originally in May of 2025, and this solicitation received no qualified proposals at the time. Staff reworked the proposal with input from jurisdiction staff and potential proposers and streamlined the overall scope of the proposal. The updated proposal was released in July of 2025, with this second round of solicitation again receiving no qualified proposals at the time. HWMA staff again altered the proposal requirements, removing the request to identify potential local locations where the facility could be housed or permitted, as this item was deemed prohibitive to the completion of the overall report. Staff released the RFP again in October of 2025 and received a single proposal from North Point Consulting Group. This proposal was received within the solicitation timeline with one error found by staff. The proposal failed to include a signed and notarized anti-collusion statement per attachment 2 of the RFP. Although it is not statutorily required of the HWMA for professional services project, the HWMA made it a requirement of this proposal as it has done in the past. As requested by the board in February, staff also reviewed the proposal and determined that in staff's opinion, the proposal meets the other required sections of the original RFP. Additionally, staff received the anti-collusion statement signed and notarized on February 19th of 2026. However, staff believes that a timely submittal of the statement with the proposal was a material requirement of the RFP, that the proposer's failure to have met this requirement renders the proposal non-responsive, and that the proposal should be rejected here tonight, and that this procurement terminated at this time. With that, staff recommends the board reject the loan received proposal as non-responsive.
All right. Thank you. Questions? We talked a lot about this at our last meeting, so let's jump right back in. Yes, Director Wilson?
If we reject this proposal, then would we have to resubmit it, or how does that move ahead to where we have a proposal?
So the board could direct the HWMA to resubmit or resolicit the RFP. Yes.
Otherwise, we don't have anything, or
my recommendation would be to, if the board wants us to, if the board deems this non-responsive, HWMA staff would reconvene with jurisdiction staff and ensure that their wishes are to continue with this RFP process or to hold off on it until a later date.
till when?
Till a later date.
Yes, Director Castellano?
Let's see, we've been, as you kind of went over, we've been in sort of a process around this for quite a while now. And, for sure, I think many of us are eager to kind of move out of this phase, which seems a little bit like Groundhog Day, and actually move to, kind of doing something about organics processing. And so I'm just curious from your perspective, what would that look like, and what would the timeline be? Like, is a feasibility study necessary to move this forward? And if not, how would you recommend to move organics processing forward?
So I don't want to speak on behalf of jurisdictions. I have gotten input from them, but at this point, currently, I spoke to a little bit last meeting as well. I don't think the feasibility study has the same value that it did to the authority or its jurisdictions at the time that we originally created it and solicited it. It's been almost 2 years now that we've been attempting to bring some type of processing and collection facility to Humboldt County. Over those 2 years, staff has met with over 17 facilities throughout the state. We've talked to dozens of operators as well. I'm not saying that the authority is experts by any means, but we have a significant amount of knowledge about this process now that we did not then. I'm not saying that a feasibility study doesn't have any value in the future, but at this point, without current organics collection without a proper, correct data to feed a potential feasibility study to permit a facility based off tons or our need, I think that has less value than it did. When we originally wrote this process, we had assumed the collection and the drop-off would be live July 1 of 2025 at the HWMA, the Hawthorne Street facility. Our intent was to have these run concurrently with a year separated so that we could collect the data from the initial year of collection, residential and commercial, get an idea of the compost makeup, the collection times, the tonnages, and then take that data and feed it to the responsive proposer of this feasibility study. At this time, we still do not have that data. And so, in essence, the feasibility study proposer, whoever that would be to win it, would be using data that we've gleaned from our 2019 waste characterization study. And that is now 7 years old. While our waste stream does not change significantly, in between 2011 waste characterization study and 2019, there were significant changes. And I would imagine if we did another waste characterization study, there would be significant changes as well.
And after being newer to the board, after the last meeting, I've spent quite a bit of time in between these past board meetings, meeting with legal counsel, with our director, with city staff to, try to figure out the best way, in my opinion, to move forward. And so I do think, from what I've learned about the process of the RFPs and the response, is that there are certain boxes that have to be checked to make it responsive. And it's been the way that it was handled this time is what the director and I talked about, is the way that it's always been handled. If it's not all there, and you can jump in at any time if I'm getting it wrong, then it's non-responsive. And I think our concern last time is that we do want to see something move forward with organics. So I feel like, in my opinion, is that we should stick with what has been done in the past, the processes, and call it non-responsive. And then at the same time, go back, have our director go to the cities and have another discussion about what is the new, or going back out for an RFP, what does that look like? What does it need to be to give us the information that we need to move forward? And then that way he could come back and let us know what the jurisdictions are saying, so that we can get those technical experts also from our cities involved in the conversation.
And to dovetail off of what the chair said, this does not mean that the HWMA is giving up on the feasibility study or a potential other study, permitting study, siting study. This does not mean that we're deciding to not move forward with it in the future. We just would request or recommend to the board that they deem this one non-responsive, and then we take a pulse of the jurisdictions altogether and decide what we would like to do going forward as far as a feasibility study or a permitting study as well.
I'm a little curious too, as part of that process, without a feasibility study, could we actually, hire a consultant or a staff person to kind of drive the organics process forward a little bit? It just, that would work, like closely with you and other leadership and staff, just to sort of keep it moving forward. I mean, would that be an alternative?
Yeah, it's something that we can consider for sure.
Okay. I think those are all my questions.
Okay. Any other thoughts on how to proceed with this? I know our Arcata City staff definitely wants to help support. We all met together and definitely wants to help figure out a way to move forward with the organics processing. So I'm pretty confident that we can do that. Yes, please. No worries.
Just really, I'm kind of going down the consultant idea or staff, additional staff rabbit hole. Would the jurisdictions, because the jurisdictions were going to put forward money to support the feasibility study, would they, of course we'd have to kind of go back to them, but could that money also support just a position in some way, or a consultant or someone working like that?
I would have to confer with jurisdiction staff because I'm not privy to the requirements of their grant or the grant funding or what they can spend it on, or if that is something that they would be willing to do.
Okay.
So I would have to check back.
Thank you.
All right, well, why don't we go ahead and go to public comment on this and then see what what the public has to say, and then we can bring it back to the board. So if those, come on up if you're here in person, and if you're online, raise your hand.
Good evening, board. My name is Praj White with North Point Consulting Group. I don't believe you guys got to see a copy of our proposal within your staff report this evening. Can you confirm that you did not see it? I just wanted to go through and read a little bit of the executive summary and touch in on the approach that we had for the project. We understand that Humboldt Waste Management Authority seeks to evaluate the feasibility to establish an in-county organics processing facility to meet the state mandates under SB 1383 and advanced regional sustainability goals. Currently, all municipal solid waste, including organics, is hauled out of county, and existing green waste capacity is limited to clean green material only. This study will provide actionable strategies to address these gaps, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and position HWMA as a leader in rural climate action responsibility. North Point Consulting Group, in partnership with RGM Engineering and Edgar Associates, proposes a comprehensive feasibility study that leverages local expertise, statewide technical experts. Our combined team and knowledge of Humboldt County's regulatory environment with specialized experience in organics processing, composting technologies, and public-private partnership models. The study would include feedstock and market analysis, infrastructure and site evaluation, regulatory and financial review, and an implementation strategy. Our approach emphasizes collaboration with HWMA staff, stakeholders, the task force, and integration of prior studies and alignment with regional climate and economic development objectives. Deliverables will include a detailed feasibility study and recommendation report that includes conceptual design, cost estimates, strategic recommendations for full-scale implementation. By combining local knowledge with technical expertise, our team will enable HWMA to make informed decisions about organic processing infrastructure, ensuring compliance and sustainability and long-term resilience for Humboldt County. We propose that it would be about a 7-month-long study, and I want to emphasize we're a local team with local staff and local graduates. We teamed with industry experts, and that our approach was to be very creative and collaborative. We would work with the staff and the task force and the local and private partners. Every one of our tasks we would bring forward and basically reach out, coordinate with staff, conduct a summary of findings and a memorandum of understanding that we would bring and do a presentation to the board or staff at the task force, and would take and implement all those recommendations back into the final study. And that I wanted to identify that also in the description of our fee structure, we thought that throughout the project, North Point would be willing to work with HWA staff and minimize consultant costs throughout the project. We would work closely with the staff and help establish where we could rely upon staff information, where we could rely upon the studies that we're doing and work forward. So we're very open to being able to work and collaborate to have a functional process, very transparent, very integrated with staff, and be conscientious of cost. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here in person? Yeah, come on up. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, my name's Taylor Goodwin. I am a community member, but I also work at North Point Consulting as an assistant engineer. I just want to take a moment and highlight, and I think we all agree, how important an organics feasibility composting solution to our area is, and how well this actually aligns with our regional climate action plan. Within our regional climate action plan, we've set some pretty aggressive goals, and they're important goals, and we set them for a reason. And specifically with an organics processing facility, we can really start expediting greener approaches to landfill, which would include just the composting in general. Composting in general has known greenhouse gas emissions, which I'm sure most of us in here know. But additionally, it would incredibly reduce the amount of vehicles miles traveled that we're currently using every day to ship our landfill out of the area. Additionally, this leaves a lot of opportunity for community growth and engagement. We have groups out here that are doing smaller scale composting, and groups like Bright and Green Solutions that have these really awesome events to have composting solutions. But that's not as equitable as we could be. Additionally, this opens the door for future community growth and exploration in biofuel and in co-digestion solutions. And so this is a first step of what could be many. And so I think it becomes a question of how long can we really put this off? Because at its core, the research and implementation of organics is based in carbon sequestration technology. And so it's in front of us now. And I just urge us to really think about how long we can wait on this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in person before we go online? Okay.
Chair, we have 2 online.
Okay, thank you.
So Carly, go ahead and speak. We have 3 on.
I just found out about this feasibility study at the last meeting, and my jaw dropped when I found out that it wasn't going to be accepted just because it didn't have that last paper, which I completely respect the process. And I like this plan that you guys are offering. If it doesn't need to be done, then and we need to do another feasibility study later as well, then I don't think that that's a bad idea. But I do want to make sure that that feasibility study is aimed towards local partners such as North Point. They are emphasizing community collaboration and growth. And let me pick up from what I understand. Now I'm getting all nervous that I'm on the camera, you guys. I hate being on the camera. I'm worried that if anybody that comes in to do a feasibility study will take most of their time just building relationships and getting to know the community, which North Point already has. We've offered multiple RFPs. They've been the only one that entered. If the community's voice has anything to say, I don't think that we should reject their offer to do this feasibility study because they were missing that. I at least think that everyone on the board should look at what a great proposal it is, and again emphasize that they know what's going on in the community. They built their consulting agency bases off our missions and values in this community, and want to make sure that we're asking our neighbors first and that we're building our local workforce towards waste reduction management as well.
Great. Thank you, Carly.
Emily, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Sure. Hi. Thank you. Good evening, board members. My name is Emily Benvey. I am staff with the City of Arcata, and I have been heavily involved with all things organics processing and systems up in Humboldt County. And I just wanted to really express appreciation for the partnership between our board member Atkins Salazar as well as Director Keller Heckman, and wanted to make a nod to the fact that we have had a couple different meetings between the last meeting and this meeting to really talk about the RFP process and organics processing coming to Humboldt County, or the development of organics processing in Humboldt County at large. And while I certainly agree with the aspect of adhering to HWMA standard process and deeming this RFP non-responsive, I also just wanted to acknowledge partnership and commitment of City of Arcata staff in moving forward with developing a process for organics processing in Humboldt County at large. And so recognizing that this might not be the the exact time for this exact proposal. Really just wanted to share commitment in moving the system forward and continuing to work in the collaborative effort. Thank you.
Thank you.
Evan, go ahead.
Thank you, board members. My name is Evan Edgar. I'm the Eureka, California, and worked on the roadmap. I was hired back in 2021, and what that organic roadmap did for 1383 was spell out a process, and this compost feasibility was part of it, but it's behind schedule. And part of the roadmap key factor was keeping organics in Humboldt County, in order to sequester the carbon into the ranches, the soils, and this feasibility study is a big part of it. Right now, your green waste is being hauled over the hill to Reading, put in an incinerator and being burned. That's what your answer is. Nobody else in California is really doing that right now, to actually burn their green waste and instead of making community compost and local compost. So that will continue for a while. And right now, your food waste is being hauled over to Dry Creek landfill in Oregon, out of state. And maybe when the transfer station operational, I think it could be hauled down to Mendocino County, where you have a contract to compost in Mendocino County. So with this delay of any type of compost feasibility study, your organics will continue to be hauled out of county, and you're not making any effort in order to keep your compost in county to fulfill the roadmap and your climate action plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Does that conclude our online?
Seeing no more, Chair.
Okay, thank you. All right, so thoughts from the board, please, or if you have questions to our council about the process, we have her here as well, so I'll open it up. Yes, Director Castellano.
Quick question, just in terms of, I do understand following procedure. And then also there is part of me that's kind of curious about this proposal that was submitted. I know it wasn't included in our packet. And maybe this is a question for legal counsel too. Is there something that would keep us from reviewing this proposal and considering it as a proposal or like sort of?
Generally, the cost is, if the board is going to reject because it's non-responsive, generally the cost is then not made public because that might influence future process. There's no hard and fast rule here, but there's nothing to prevent reviewing the rest of the proposal. And I also wonder if the scope of work would change significantly in a future RFP, so the cost proposal of the current one might not be relevant any longer. It might be a moot point. I don't know. But, that's the general concern around reviewing it publicly.
Great.
If there's not going to be an award.
Thank you.
Well, and also I just would like to acknowledge that even though we haven't seen it, the work from North Point, the term non-responsive, I'm sure is possibly insulting when you've put a lot of hard work into it and you didn't sign a document. So I just want to be clear about that. It's harsh language for something that is probably very well done. So for me, when I'm leaning towards calling it non-responsive, that is simply based on what I've been told by staff has been other companies have submitted documents or proposals and failed to turn in one of these sheets, and it's been non-responsive. So the question is, if we are really wanting to move forward with this and make an exception, does this pose a problem and set a precedent for the future? I think that was the concern that was conveyed to me, and I just want to be careful for our future and not to get us into other into situations that could be messy. We only have one bid this time, so it seems very easy, right? It's just like, it's just one piece of paper, it's one proposal. But could that get us into trouble in the future? I think that is the concern. And that's why I'm kind of leaning on the more, I guess I would say, conservative track of rejecting it and then possibly seeing what we want to put out for another one in a timely manner. Any thoughts or feedback on that? Yes.
I really appreciate you wanting to maintain the integrity of the process and make sure that we're following everything that we should be doing. However, I agree, this seems like it's one piece of paper, but I do appreciate your point. I do have a question about how long the RFP needs to be open for the next, if we choose to deem it non-responsive, reject, and then move forward with a new one.
Generally, we solicit for 30 to 45 days, but based off the history of this one, if the board directs us, we could do a shorter time period.
Thank you.
Yes, Nancy.
Can I ask what the general cost is that the jurisdictions have put forward, just so I have a sense of, is that a public dollar amount? Is it more than the executive director's spending authority, I guess?
Yes.
It is. Okay. So another possibility, and I can't guarantee, but because I haven't evaluated this, and I don't know where the discussions are going to lead with the jurisdictional staff in terms of what the desired scope of work is, but whether it is feasible to consider that, since only one proposal was received, whether the board would want to negotiate directly with that one proposer to receive a reduced cost. Is there any value in submitting or circulating another RFP? If once you've revised the scope of work, if you think that there is, then by all means it should be done. So you have a competitive sense of the cost. This is not, this has to be distinguished from the construction projects where competitive bidding is required and you award to the low cost, right? This is a professional services project, so it has a slightly more flexible process. You still have statutory requirements you have to follow, and you have to follow, obviously, HWMA's procurement policy. But I don't know what the proposed scope of work is going to be, or the proposed potential cost, or the value in circulating another RFP. I don't know why there was only one proposal received here. So there's a lot to evaluate coming forward that might, kind of weigh into the next decision of the board.
And Nancy, if we had board members that wanted to go in that direction and work on, I assume what you're saying is it would be our director going back, talking to city staff, figuring out what should be included in this, in another proposal, and then instead of publicly flying it, we would negotiate with North Point on the changes that staff has come up with. Is that what you're?
I'm suggesting that I'm not identifying North Point. I'm just suggesting that perhaps there is only one entity that would be interested anyway in doing that kind of work. And I don't know, because I was not involved in the first process at all, so I don't know why only one proposal was received. I don't know what the speculation is around that. I don't know if there were other inquiries. Sometimes people just aren't interested in responding. Mm-hmm. You only have one, group that wants to respond, in which case then I think the requirement is to try to attempt, to receive a couple of quotes for work. But I'm just saying when this returns to the board, there might be a few ideas on how to bring it forward, and it might not just be, here an RFP, send it out. We might even, we might want to just get creative.
Okay, I get what
around
you're
all of
saying.
this,
Okay.
is what I'm saying here.
That makes sense. And if the board wanted to go in that direction, they would, even if it ends up in the end that there is one entity that's coming to the table and we end up working with them, they would still need to reject the proposal tonight as non-responsive.
We need to close out this particular process. Non-responsive, and I truly appreciate your comment because that does sound like it's a judgment on the entire quality of the proposal. That's the terminology that is adopted from the construction contract bidding requirements, and it is used throughout the RFP, and so that's why we're all using that word here tonight. So I do appreciate that statement.
Sure, thank you. All right, so what, yes, Director Madrone.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, really complicated discussion. I don't think we really have a choice but to reject for non-responsive in order to not set bad precedents, et cetera. But I will also say that we immediately need to get an RFP back out and or negotiate, as was suggested might be a possibility by our council. If we don't do something immediately, then we're non-responsive. I mean, we're falling behind. As Evan was mentioning, we have this game plan, this whole thing we've been working on. We've had some of the great speakers here tonight. I mean, Humboldt is a leader on so many things, but here we are lagging behind everybody. And I don't blame staff at all for this. I think it's really, it's just a whole bunch of stuff that happened here that put us in this place. I had great hopes that if Nordic could get built and it was done in a good way where it took good care of its workforce and dealt with all of its waste, that would be a waste stream that could be mixed with our organics and our green waste and create an amazing fertilizer project, that the only thing we'd be shipping out of Humboldt County would be a value-added product rather than shipping all these raw products off and doing these bizarre things with them. So I just want to say, if we don't get our act together in a way, not technically or legally speaking, but there are some ramifications to not getting our act together and dealing with this, right? Luckily, the state extended deadlines because it was difficult to get some of the components, the trucks and other things that were going to be required. And so we've been very lucky that way, but time's running out. And if we don't get our act together, we're non-responsive as well. So let's figure out, I think we don't have a whole lot of choice on this particular one in front of us, but let's get this back. Let's get something going, whether that's a new RFP or negotiating with the one responsive bidder. So that's my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Director Castellano?
Great. Yeah, I agree with what's been spoken. To reject the proposal, redefine the scope of work, and then I would definitely support sole sourcing or directly working with an organization as a consultant and entering into conversation that way. To me, I don't know that we need to put out another RFP specifically. Anyway, I would like to kind of move forward with as much expediency as possible. I will make a motion, or I move to reject the proposal received as non-responsive and terminate the current procurement process.
Okay, and then also included in that is that, are we also directing staff to work with the jurisdictions to come up with a new path forward?
Yeah, I can do that as a motion also, or as part of the motion.
Okay.
Sure, and to work with staff to redefine the scope of work, and bring back opportunities to move forward that scope of work with as much expediency as possible.
Great, thank you. And do you still second that? All right, so we have a motion and a second. One last roll call vote. Director Madrone.
Yes.
All right, and Director Wilson?
Yes.
Director Katie?
Yes.
I'm a yes. And Director Louis Lusso?
Yes.
Director Castellano?
Yes.
All right, motion passes unanimously. Okay, so next we have board member reports. Are there any board members that have something they'd like to report out? Thank you. Okay. Seeing none, we will go to our executive director's report.
Nothing at this time, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. I think that brings us to the end of our agenda. So with that, we will go ahead and adjourn.
Closed session.
Oh, we will adjourn to closed session. Thank you. And then we will be back for a report out if anyone wants to stick around. Thank you.